All right, so it is a Tuesday, and the basketball season is back. We will be with you every Tuesday. The Reverend Big Pooh will man the co-host chair with me. Pooh, what's happening?
Nothing much, nothing much.
And for the first, we bring back a dear friend of the show, Mr. Troy Haliburton. Troy, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Big Doug and Big Pooh, man. Glad you guys could have me on. It's a good day in Wizards fandom because, we got something good to talk about.
Well, you've been everywhere. I'm just glad that you fit us into your schedule big time.
Hey, like I said, nobody would want to talk to me if the Wizards weren't doing their thing on the court. The product on the court is good, so we're going to try to make the product off the court just as good.
All right, well, let's do this, Troy. We're 10 games in. We're about a tenth of the way through the season, essentially. For those that are just getting into Wizards now, maybe because the football team stinks and they're moving on already, talk to the people listening for a couple of minutes and get us caught up on what we might have missed in the offseason.
Yeah, so to get caught up, the Wizards, I think most people who were Wizards fans, they wanted to see a change at the head coach position. And so that was kind of what kicked off everything with the offseason. And so Tommy Shepard decided not to bring back Scott Brooks. And so they had a very long, extensive coaching search. I think that a lot of people were very concerned that the Wizards were the last team that fired a coach to hire their coach. But as it turns out, Tommy Shepard was just doing his due diligence and going out there, making sure that he got the best possible candidate. And I think that when you look at the Wizards' early success, a lot of that has to start with Wes Unseld Jr., the hire that Tommy Shepard made, and how he has really brought something new to a new group. And so that'll be the next step. So not only did Tommy Shepard go out and hire a new coach, but he traded one of their star players and basically consolidated. We're bringing in Russell Westbrook and turn him into 4 quality players. And so I think with those two things, I think that those are the main reasons why the Wizards are starting out as successful as they are.
Yeah, it's been they have beat good teams along the way so far. I peeped the next little bit of the schedule. It's not tough. This team could really be on a roll here.
Yeah, I think the team is definitely on a roll because, number one, I think that with Wes Unseld Jr., they look completely different with how they play because they're making adjustments on the fly. So when they're out there and they're playing teams, when some coaching staffs might switch it up, like the other day when they played the Bucks and they started running a 2-3 zone. You can see Wes Unseld Jr. stepping up on the sideline, signaling to his players, running this way. He looked like the baseball, the third base coach. He was out there, he was running. He had all type of hand signs, hand signals. But that's what coaching does, though. And all of a sudden, you see 2 guys get screened and Bradley Beal scoring a layup. So I look at what the coach is doing and his ability to make adjustments on the fly. And I think that has a lot to do with the team having early success.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't want to. Everybody knows my disdain for Scott Brooks if you watch this program in the past year, but the biggest thing I see out of Wes Unseld Jr., as Troy pointed out, is the adjustments. Wes Unseld Jr. was touted as being highly prepared, highly detailed, a tactician. We know defensive oriented, all those things. And we're actually seeing it. In the first 10 games of the season, we're actually seeing all of those things. They're always prepared every night. Even the games they lost, they look prepared. They just look like they had a bad shoot night, low effort night, whatever it was. But they were prepared. You see the adjustments on the fly. And the biggest thing for me is the defense. No, this is the NBA. There's not going to be any, you're holding teams to 75, 85 points. That's going to be rare. But you see the best player on the team and Brad Beal buying in on the defensive end. I mean, he's really playing defense. I don't think I've seen Brad play this type of defense since his first couple of seasons in the league, when he really didn't know how to play defense at an NBA level. You're seeing it now. And even in crucial parts of the game, you'll see him switch off or switch on to whoever the hot player is, if it's a guard, to try to slow that guard down or that player down. And I just love the energy. I love the focus of this team. And everybody understands what their role is. I think that's the biggest part of all of this, is guys know what their role is. Everybody has a role. Just like the other night, seeing them, Denny was doing a good job against Giannis. He took him out, saw Giannis started to get loose. He put him right back in, even though it was the end of the game. And then he hadn't even, I don't even think he had 3 points. He put him back in the game anyway, because it was like, this is the guy that was doing the best job against Giannis. He needs to be in at the crucial part of the game. And that's trust. That's trust that you're building with your players, that you're building with your team, that the players are building with each other. No, seeing like, oh, coach put Denny back in, to guard Giannis. Now Denny is getting that confidence. So I love the way this team is playing. I don't know what the ceiling is, where they're going to go, how much. I don't know any of that. I just know I'm enjoying watching them play right now. And this is a different type of enjoyment. We've enjoyed watching the Wizards play before, when they was just putting up 115, 118 points a game, had to outscore opponents. We've enjoyed. This is a different type of enjoyment. This enjoyment feels sustainable. And that's what I love so much about this team.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's sustainable because, as you mentioned, they can win in different ways right now. So they got different styles for different fights. And I think that to go back to the point that you were making, it all kind of starts with Brad. And Brad actually is playing defense for the first time in a few years. And I think that a lot of that has to do with that he doesn't have to bear so much of a load on the offensive end, as far as, just trying to score the basketball and do so many other things. Like his workload is decreased because we have, a full stable of competent NBA players. And so, whereas last year when Brad, he had to carry such a load because, he had guys like, Isak Bonga and Garrison Matthews, who are, I like them as decent role players, but there's level to this. Those guys are fringe end of the roster guys projects on most NBA teams. Cal Kuzma and KCP were rotation players on a championship team. There's way different levels of the workload that he can expect from his teammates, and so that decreases his workload, and then it allows him to focus on different areas that he wasn't allowed to in the past. Number one being defense.
Troy, there's been mixed messages coming out of Washington. Tell us what's going on with Rui Hachimura, what you are hearing.
Well, the one message is that Rui Hachimura has been a part of the organization. I think that there was this misconception out there that maybe that he hadn't been fulfilling his obligations, or that the team or his teammates have not seen him. And it's I've reported some things. Ava Wallace from the Washington Post has reported some things about different teammates that have seen him, have spent time around him. Shams from The Athletic just reported yesterday that he is expected to be back to full activities within the next 2 weeks. And so that goes along with everything that I've been saying. I talked directly to Tommy Shepard about this, and he assured me that they are taking their time. That the due diligence that he had, the same due diligence that he had when he hired the coach, is the same due diligence that he and Wes Unseld Jr. are taking with trying to reincorporate Rui back into team activities. So he's following along on a plan that the team has set all along, and he is right on schedule with what it is they want to see from him. And so he'll be back playing very soon, and it'll be a much needed piece to this already talented roster.
It's a mental health thing for him, correct?
Yeah, so but pretty much from my understanding is that he had reached the point where he was just exhausted from after the Olympics and before the start of the season. I mean, you got to also you have to realize that, I mean, Rui, when you look at the timeline of Rui and everything that has happened to him since he's been in the NBA, it's like it's been a constant like ebb and flow for him. You know, he got kicked in the balls by Isak Bonga, and that injury, like, you know, really set him back a little bit. That was a very traumatic injury for him, not only on the floor but, you know, off the floor. Like that's a very traumatic thing that happened to him. Then you also look at he got sick last year right before the season started. He's had COVID before. You know, he went to Japan. He played in the Olympics, and he wasn't just a member of the national team. I mean, he was like a frontline premier member of, you know, of the Japanese Olympic team. You know, he's like one of the torchbearers at the Olympics. Like, you know, he had a lot of responsibility on him, and I do feel like some of the pressures of that just started weighing down on him. And then you also have to take into consideration that, you know, the NBA, that he's going into his third season and what really has only been like a year and a half of time. So, you know, it's just a lot going on. Like the 2 seasons ago just ended. Like the Lakers, their championship, like their banner was just hung up like I think a year ago, like at this point. But that was 2 seasons ago. So, I mean, I think a lot of that is just like kind of caught up with him. So this isn't a Ben Simmons situation where he has been apart from the team. You know, he has been lockstep with the organization every step of the way, man, as far as the communication, letting him know that he wasn't coming, letting him know when he arrived in the country, letting him know about everything that's going on with him. So that's why I think that they are being super cautious with not just throwing him back out there and really listening to him and having a full understanding of, you know, that he just needed some time away, but they're trying to build him up in mind, body, and spirit at this point.
I love the holistic approach that's being taken. I mean, you could take this approach. It's good they're taking it, but they can afford to take this approach this season because of the depth that they have. And I mean, everything Tommy has done has been with patience. Like, he doesn't do things in haste. And so to see the holistic approach that they're taking with Rui lets you know how much they think of Rui, because they're not rushing him out there. They're taking that time. They're showing him that they care and that they want to build him back the right way. You know, so he has that mental energy, that mental focus, and that just that belief in himself. Because I know it was tough over the summer. All those things Troy mentioned, and then this summer, you know, being the guy in Japan and then they not win a game. I'm pretty sure, you know, he that took a toll on him, because there has been things with him and his brother from people in Japan before, just some of the you know, the insensitive comments and things of that nature. So this is, you know, for me, you almost forget when you're watching them play that Rui is even missing. You know, he was a big part of their team his first 2 seasons, and now you forget he was like, oh man, that's right, Rui's coming back. Like, and it just adds more to what they're building in Washington, and knowing and understanding that everybody on this team is under 30. Like, that's Tommy, man. Tommy has done a masterful job since he's taken over full time at the GM position, and he showed the league how to team build on the fly. Like, this wasn't a rebuild. Everybody been calling for a rebuild. He showed how to retool on the fly, and he's done a masterful job at that.
Yeah, no, I agree that they've done a great job retooling. Big Pooh, something that I wanted to comment on that you mentioned, they really are showing to Rui and to the rest of the team like how valuable he is to them. So like this isn't just, a quick fix plan that they're putting together. They're really looking at Rui as they should. He's a 10-year asset for them. And so, they want to make sure that they're taking as good care of him as possible. And it isn't about this season. Rui's going to be a Washington Wizard for a long time. So they want to make sure that they are cultivating a very positive and healthy relationship. And I think that the line of communication works both ways. And I think that when Rui is ready, that he'll be able to come out and further explain what it is that's going on. But I think that what people can do who are covering the team is to have more empathy with some of the reporting around whatever it is that is going on. And so if you have reports that come out and make it seem like that he's apart from the team or that his teammates are upset at him, like I think that could be damaging to a guy who is clearly going through something. And so, man, I love the fact that Tommy Shepard has really taken his time and dealing with this in a way that shows how much they truly care about him as a person, not just as an asset.
And having two players that play with him in college doesn't hurt either.
That's right.
Exactly.
Troy, eventually we'll get Thomas Bryant back on this roster. Is there a log jam amongst the big men? I mean, Rui comes back, Thomas Bryant comes back. You'll have Gafford, you'll have Trez. They're going to have to move somebody. How do you keep all those guys on the roster?
Well, I mean, you can keep all those guys on the roster. It's about whether they're going to be in the playing rotation. I think that at this point, Montrezl Harrell is one of the best players in the entire NBA at this point. So his minutes are solidified. Daniel Gafford, he was just signed to a contract extension for 3 years for $40 million before the season. So that was added on to the 2 years that he already had on his deal. So I think that his position on the team is pretty much solidified. And so when you're looking at Thomas Bryant, I think that, it's a break the glass in case of emergency type of situation. While we do have Montrez and Gafford, as we saw last week, if Gafford goes out with an injury, I mean, we're really down to just one center. So I'm sure that there will be moments throughout the course of the season where they will be relying on Thomas Bryant to come in and produce. But at the same time, I think that, for him, the only thing that he can focus on is just coming out and trying to, get his body back to full health and, showcase his talents for the rest of the league. Because, I mean, if I were a betting man, I would say that his time in DC is not for long.
And it's incredible because just a year ago, he was like they were building around him. They were building around this big man that could shoot threes and stretch the floor, if I'm not mistaken. It's just amazing how quickly things can change. They were high on him.
I wouldn't say necessarily building around him. He was the guy that was here. And give credit to Tommy Shepard that they were developing him as a prospect. But I believe that, that when other teams were calling interested in trades, I believe that, that they've probably been trying to shop him for the last year and a half. And one of the reasons why he's probably still on the roster is because of that ACL injury. There have been a number of opportunities for teams and different deals that they could have made that probably would have had to involve him. And so maybe the best course of action is for him to come back and get his trade value back up. And you can put together some type of package with Thomas Bryant and Davis Bertans and go out and get that extra piece that will put this team over the hump.
Yeah, I like Thomas Bryant as a player, but I think they ended up finding the two types, I'll say, that they need at center for this type of team. And that's defensive players. I mean, Trez has some more offensive ability than Gafford does, but you have two finishers at the rim. I know Brian is a finisher at the rim, but you have two players that bring a different type of presence when they're in the game as big men. And they didn't have that prior to the beginning of last season. So now they have it. I think Tommy, not that Tommy didn't know what he wanted, but he has what he wants now. And that makes a Thomas Bryant expendable. Like Troy said, I think he'll be a break a case of emergency option. Because I mean, we see how Wes Unseld Jr. runs his show. He has his rotation, and if you're playing well, you keep playing. Like, he doesn't say, okay, you're playing well, now sit down because there's somebody else starting to get back in. Like, no, he continues to play you. So I think for Thomas Bryant, when he comes back, we know he's going to be on a minutes restriction. He's probably not going to be playing back-to-backs. So all those different things kind of helps that we already have two centers in rotation before him. So he will be the guy who sometimes he may play more than other times. Sometimes he may not really play. As far as Rui goes, I think once Rui is back fully integrated and, in the beginning, he's probably going to come off the bench just, as he eases his way back into the team. But I think once he gets back to being the player that we know he is, I think that'll cause some shifting. But the way they play, having Kyle Kuzma, Denny, and Rui helps them tremendously because they all can guard down. Rui and Denny can guard up. And so that just helps them with their alignments. The one thing Tommy did after watching them get obliterated in that series against Philly on the wings, he made sure that will not happen this year. It will not happen. He has KCP out there. He has Denny out there. He will have Rui back. He has Kyle Kuzma out there, and Bill is playing defense now. They will not get blistered on the wings again. That's not happening again. So, he made that a thing, and you can even see. And I know it's early in the season, but if you notice how Unseld Jr. runs his like his minutes, I'll say. Players don't play a lot of, I know Brad, he'll depending on the situation, but his players don't play a lot of heavy minutes. Like he keeps them fresh. So there's going to be plenty opportunity for Rui when he gets back. And it should be opportunity for Thomas Bryant as well when he gets back. To play some minutes and to rebuild for Thomas Bryant's trade value and for Rui to get reacclimated with, not just reacclimated with the team, because I know he sees the guys, but on the floor in the actual game, get up the game speed. So I think it'll be plenty of minutes to go around.
Troy, let me ask you this. If Wes Unseld is a defensive guy, and maybe it doesn't work this way as much in basketball, who is tasked with coming up with the offense? Is that still Wes, or who on the bench is kind of takes that role if he's more the defensive mastermind?
Yeah, well, it really doesn't work that way. Kind of like I know what you're thinking. Like if you have an NFL team, who's the offensive coordinator, who's the defensive coordinator? Now Wes he's the head coach, so he's like I said, he's calling the plays on the offensive end. I've had different anecdotes in a story I wrote last week where Kyle Kuzma says that Wes Unseld calls a play every time they come down the floor. Now whether they listen to it or not, it is one thing. But, I think that he gives them the freedom to, kind of do what they want to on the offensive end. But he is as a defensive tactician, his job has been to kind of lay this foundation that was not there before for this team defensively. And so I think what that starts with guarding their man, a heads up, doing a lot less switching than they have in years past. And I think that's been one of the biggest things. When you look at Wizards teams of years past, they would opposing players would end up with wide open jump shots or wide open layups because there would be miscommunications on switches or unnecessary switches and just doing different things. And so Wes Unseld has laid down a foundation where, they're not switching as much. They're straight up, they're getting into their men. And, I think that he's focused on, just building those teachable moments on the defensive end while also still, running and calling plays on the offensive end. So, he's a guy who is wearing a lot of hats right now. And obviously he's having a lot of success. But this is like Big Pooh said, I mean, this is what we expected from him. This is what everybody has heard, everything about him, is that he's so detail oriented. And so, he's just showing that right now with he's leading by example more so than word of mouth.
I'm curious, how many people are on the beat? Do y'all get along on the Wizards beats? And how many questions do you have to have ready in case somebody asks you a question before it's your time?
Well, so the Wizards beat is probably one of the smaller beats in the NBA. I would say there are probably like 6 or 7 like regular people who cover like who would attend almost every game and attend every press conference and things of that nature. I think that the relationship is quite jovial between everybody that's on the beat. I think everybody really gets along, and I think that one of the biggest things is just making sure that we have accurate reporting about different things that are going on within the organization. And so, I don't think that there's as much competition or different dirty tactics that I might see on other beats about people, just trying to get people to store, but it's a small, tight, close-knit group.
Troy, I wanted to ask you, I was reading the other day, the Wizards have probably one of the, or it might be the lowest attendance so far this season. If it's not the lowest, it's one of the lowest. Do you think that's a product of fans being cautious about this start? Like they're not trusting their eyes right now. They're saying, let me wait a little bit longer before we come fill this arena out to selling out this arena every night, because we don't know, this team fooled us before in the past.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's trusting their eyes and watching their wallets. I think that over the years, I think that with the Wizards, with their ticket sales, is that the sales have gone up in a way that has not coincided with the product on the floor. And so right now, what you end up with, and because I have a lot of friends who, have season ticket packages or different things of that nature. And the value isn't really where I think that the consumer would like it to be. And so I'll give you an example. So you might buy a season ticket package, and it might not come with like some of the amenities that you would want. You might people want the VIP wristbands with all you can eat or all you can drink, or maybe the ticket prices are just a little bit more expensive than what people believe the product on the floor to be. And so I think that once the season goes long, if they keep winning 7 out of 10 games, every 10 games, then by the end of the season, it will be a product that will be worth what it is they're charging right now. But I think that a lot of that just has to do with being in Washington, D.C., and the cost of living and just everything's just more expensive here. And so I think that, people aren't really prepared to pay New York Knicks ticket prices for an experience that they would not deem to be Madison Square Garden.
Troy, let's wrap with this. What is, the high end for the record? What is the low end for the record? What should we be looking at here?
Well, the high end for the record, I think that we might possibly be looking at the team winning the 50 games for the first time in over 40 years. That would be the high end for me. I think I just saw on Basketball Reference they were projected at 48 wins, so that's right there at that 50 mark. And then the low for me would have to be coming into the season. I believe the Vegas line for the over-under total was 33.5. And so definitely anything below that would be a high disappointment, especially for people like me who wagered a good amount of money on them hitting the over on that. If they don't hit that number, we're going to have some major problems here.
Yeah, the high for me is around that 48, 50 games, and the low for me is 40. They got to get to 40. they're playing too well. I know they're not going to win every game, but they're playing too well, and they've shown us. It's one of the things like you've shown me that you can play well, and so to do anything less would be a regression, and so I'm expecting at least 40.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like when you look at the fact that they've played 10 games already and they've won 70% of their games, if they don't win 50% of their games for the entirety of the season, then something went wrong. Like that, I mean, so I'm right there with you, Pooh. Like if they dip below 40 and that means that they are not finishing 500 this year, then I think that something definitely went wrong. And yeah, like that would not be a good sign at all.
Well, here's the next 10 games: at the Cavaliers, at Magic, home to the Pelicans, at Charlotte, at Miami, then back home. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of winnable games on that stretch.
I don't know, man. I've been watching these teams play. Now the Pelicans should be a win.
And the Pelicans with no Brandon Ingram or no Zion, man. Look, that's one of those games. Like that, like get your nice rest. You go out after that game. You got to get that win for sure.
Right.
The Miami games are going to be tough, and that Charlotte game is going to be tough. But some of those Clevelands and Orlando's, yes, they look like that they're better than they were last year. But at the end of the day, this is one of those situations. The NBA is about talent. And so when you have a guy like Bradley Beal, who will be going into a lot of these nights as the supposed best player on the court, they should be winning a lot of these ball games.
Yeah, I completely agree. Troy, we appreciate you as always, blessing the show. Always a lot of fun. I hope that 50 is right. That'd be great.
Beautiful to see.
I think 50 is there too, man. The Wizards / Bullets fandom, I mean, we need it. Like 40 years without getting 50 wins like that.
I was stunned when you said
it's just kind of downright disgraceful. So, and I think that it would kind of be fitting for them to get it in this year with Wes Unseld Jr. coaching the team, as they're honoring Wes Unseld Sr. They just put a bust of him in the hallways of Capital One Arena. His jersey already hangs in the rafters. I think that this will be definitely a good full circle moment for the franchise if they are able to come out here and have their best year since Wes Unseld Sr. was donning the red, white, and blue back in the 70s.
Fellas, I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Y'all have a good one.
I gotta take it easy, man. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. All right.
Yep.